of growth is something which is very much emphasized in the festival of Sukkot. Being that all the mitzvahs, the things that we have to do on Sukkot, have to do with plants that grow. The taking of the lulav and the etrog and sitting in the sukkah. Now when we sit in the sukkah, we sit underneath the schach, the covering of the sukkah, which is governed by some very specific rules. Number one, the schach, the covering of the sukkah, has to be something that grows from the ground. Bamboos, palm branches, things like that. Secondly, although it must grow from the ground, but it must be cut off from the ground. If it's still connected to its place of growth, the sukkah is invalid. And thirdly, it cannot be processed into some manufactured vessel or something like that it becomes halachically susceptible to impurity. Now the laws of impurity and purity are very complicated, but essentially, once something is processed into a whole vessel of its own, a functioning vessel, it becomes susceptible to impurity and it's invalid for the covering of the sukkah. So you can't put a wooden chair or a wooden table up there as schach, for example. These three laws create an amazing formula for what it means to grow. The first thing is it must be from something that grows from the ground, because the intrinsic and critical ingredient to the human experience is the concept of growth. However, it must be cut off from the ground, because true growth is when we learn to grow independently, when we learn to grow and not be dependent on someone else teaching us or guiding us or constantly holding our hand. Growth means that the growth process of what we do in our life becomes so intrinsic and ingrained in us that it's something that we do independently. However, when we become independent, there's a danger that we become egocentric, that we start doing our own thing and we forget about the principles and the axioms that govern the values of true growth according to the teachings of Torah. And therefore this third rule is, make sure it's not something that can be susceptible to impurity. In other words, when you become independent and you grow independently, which is a good thing, protect yourself from any spiritual impurity. This is the equation of growth which we learn from the laws of the sukkah. Have a Chag Sameach and a joyous holiday.